Oh, okay. Um, well, obviously it was good to beat Nichols. I thought Nichols played extremely hard, played extremely well. They're going to have a very good season in the Southland. It's no secret we got to get our turnover issue under control. We have 32 assists on the year, and other teams have 36 steals. So we've thrown the ball to the other team 4 more times than we've thrown it to ourselves, uh, which is not good. So we got to get that under control. We've got good guards. Javante's a good guard. Skylar's a good guard. Manning's a good guard. You know, Watford kind of plays like a guard when he's at the 3 or the 4. And we'll get this under control. I feel good about our guys' mentality, and some of it's not all the guys that have all the turnovers' fault. Some of it's our spacing, our cutting, our movement as we've adjusted to a little bit different offense. We've been a little bit too stagnant when teams have taken away really our first thing. We've just kind of stood around and watched as opposed to moving and found other ways to get back in things. So I've got to coach that better, and I think if we do that, we can cut down on some turnovers, and then we've got to quit compounding mistakes. Our turnovers, you go back and study them all, they come in bunches. You know, we commit one, we'll commit like 4 out of 5 possessions, we'll commit turnovers. So we've got to do a better job of just moving on and staying in the present play and not compounding our mistakes. I think if we do that, we can knock, 10 or 12 turnovers off, and if we do that, we'll be somewhere around 12, somewhere between 10 to 14 turnovers, which is manageable. We're just scoring over 80 points a game and coughing the ball up, worst in the country. So we've got some work to do there. Starts tomorrow night with UMBC. They're going to pressure us. They've got a guard, Rogers, who's very good. Seen him play since he played on the AAU circuit for CP3. He's a very good player. His father was a Hall of Famer and excellent player at George Washington University. And he does a really good job with their team, commanding their team, heating the ball up, and he's a prolific scorer. So Coach Odom does a great job. They're very sound defensively. They're also top 20 in the country defensively in turnovers forced. So we're going to have to handle the ball quite a bit better. And got a transfer from William and Mary, transfer from East Carolina, who help them out. And it'll be a good test for us as we get ready to head to Jamaica.
I know you probably keep track of this, but how many of these turnovers are unforced versus forced, and how much do you give a little latitude for the forced ones?
Well, I always say if you make a mistake of aggression, I'm fine with that as long as it's aggressive. But I think teams have been pressing us, but we haven't turned it over nearly as much against the press. The problem's when we get in the half court and we get bogged down in the half court. Our spacing's not great. We don't shorten the passes. We don't meet passes. We just don't do some fundamental things that we need to do, and so that's on me to get that corrected. That's not all on the players, and so I got to get that. I got to get that right.
Coach, I know you can't talk about players that you get commitments from, but when you continue to get commitments from really good players.
We can talk about Cam Thomas. He signed.
Oh, he signed?
Yeah, he signed.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah. Is that who you're referring
Yeah.
to? Yeah. He fits your description.
Yeah. So when you get a player like that, what does that say about,
It says we need to replace Skylar Mays. We need somebody who can really score, and he can certainly do that. He's the best scorer I've seen come out of high school or AAU, and since I've been coaching. I mean, he's as prolific a scorer as I've ever seen, and so he's tremendous kid, tremendous family. His mother Leslie is a great lady. His sister Shanice, just really good people. They've done a great job of putting him in positions to be successful and really locking in on his development. I mean, his mom, it's very rare, and his mom works him out. His mom is like his shooting coach. I mean, she's the one who finds the moves. I mean, she's in there rebounding for him. Rebounding for him is not very hard. You just got to stand under the net because they all go through. You stand under the net. You're not like you got to chase him around the gym. But we're very excited about Cam. We had really locked in on him, and we knew we needed a prolific scorer, and he's that in spades.
Coach, just talking about the turnovers, is part of the message just that it's not hindering your offense fully? You have a close loss to VCU and a 10-point win over Nichols. Is it part of the discipline of just getting that together, is showing that it's not a mess of the offense, it's just more of a shooting ourselves in the foot kind of thing going on?
Yeah, I mean, part of it's that, and it's, we've got to get it under control because, we're costing opportunities for our team. We're costing opportunities for other guys to shoot and to score, and when you do that, it can eventually, if it's a prolonged issue, it can seep down into other guys on your team. And so we've got to attack it head on. And look, we're not going to go from, we've coughed it up 25 times the last couple games. We're not going to go from 25 to 5, but we need to go from 25 to 14 to 16, and then from 16 down to 12 or 14, and then from 12 or 14 down to 10. We need to eventually get down. And we've shown we can do it. I mean, last year I went back and studied I had to do, I had plenty of time this weekend. I went back and studied the A&M and Tennessee games from last year when Javonte and Skylar were our starting backcourt. We turned over 9 times and 7 times in those couple games. And Tennessee game was an overtime game against a really good team. So, we've shown we can do it. We've shown we're capable of doing it. We've just got to get out there and execute and do it at a little bit higher level. But it's not all on the guys who are turn it over. Now, some of it is, but some of it's our spacing, our movement, where we got to be better at finishing through contact. About a third of our turnovers are counters, where we see somebody and we try to spin or try to make a second move and do stuff like that. We'll just go through them and go finish. Like, let's stop countering so much. And so some of it's correctable type things, and our guys are trying to correct. We got guys in the gym right now working on it, working against traps and working on it, because if we don't get it corrected, we're not going to reach our potential as a team. I mean, we shoot 71% when we get a shot on the basket. Between our initial shooting percentage, our offensive rebound, we're offensive rebounding 51% of our misses, which is out of this world. And then, when we put it back in, I mean, 71% of the time we score when we get the ball on the basket. So, at this point, we'd be better off coming over half court and just tossing it off the backboard at some point. So, but we'll get it corrected. Our guys want to get it corrected, and we will. I got confidence.
Coach, we were checking to see if this is a typo, but Darnell Rogers is 5'2"?
He's the point guard. He's tremendous. He's Shante Rogers' son. Yeah, he's really, really good. That's not a typo, but he's he's cat quick, can score it, drives it in there, shoots it behind ball screens. I mean, anytime you got a little guard, you got to be able to shoot. If you can't shoot, you can just pack it in. I mean, he can shoot and fill it up. He's, like I said, he's somebody I've seen play for 4 or 5 years. And when you first see it, you're kind of like, how is this going to work? And when you watch him play, I mean, he plays with one of the highest motors that we'll see anybody play with all year long. And so he's a really, really good player, really, really good talent.
When you come across a guy who's smaller, typically they're a distributor, right now. I mean, not a guy who would average 16 points a game.
Yeah, I mean, but, he's got, in order to distribute, he's got to be able to make shots so people will climb up on him so he can get in the paint and spray it out. But he's a tremendous player. I mean, he played really well on the EYBL circuit. He played really well in junior college. I mean, he's done it wherever he's been. And then his dad he's got great genetics.
I know people will remember the name from a couple of years ago, but how did this game come about? Did you initiate it, or they did? Or?
Well, it's part of the Jamaica. Nichols and this are part of the Jamaica Classic. You didn't know that? No. Okay. No. The Nichols and UMBC are part of the Jamaica Classic. But I've known UMBC's. Well, I know Matt Henry, one of their assistants, really well. Colby Lewis, one of their ops guy. And I've known Nate Dixon, who's their top assistant. I know Coach Odom a little bit, but I've known Nate Dixon for 15 years. He's worked at almost every school in Louisiana, I think. But he's worked. I met him when he was at University of Florida with Billy Donovan. So, I've known a lot of their staff members for a long time. But it came through the Jamaica. Through the Jamaica Classic. These are the 2 home games, and we've got the 2 neutral games later on this week.
That win they had 2 years ago, I mean, that's still reverberating.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're one of the top teams in the America East. I mean, every year it's them and Vermont, and Vermont's just been clubbing people. They just beat St. John's the other day. I mean, they've been beating everybody. But every year it comes down to them and Vermont. The year they beat Virginia, they won at Vermont in the conference championship. I think this past year, it's them, Vermont, and Albany typically in that league, and so they'll be very, very good again. The way they play defense and the way their system's built, they're always going to be competing at the top of their league.
We saw Marlon on
We
Saturday.
want to talk about
walking
turnovers,
around.
Glenn?
No, I'm good on the turnovers, Coach. Just kind of what's the long-term process?
Good
with
question
Marlon?
on Marlon. He's going to be out a while, another couple of weeks. We're going to kind of go back. I should have mentioned this. Shelton didn't ask for his injury report, so I forgot to mention it. Yeah, okay. We're going to go back and relook at some things in the foot. He's still having some issues that we need to get addressed, and so I think the earliest he could be back would be 2 or 3 weeks. I think our goal would be to have him back by the East Tennessee State game. I think that would be a realistic goal in the middle of December there. I think that would be a realistic target for us, or if not that, right after Christmas. But we're going to be without him for an extended period here. We've got to shut him down and kind of go recalibrate on a few things.
Watford's had a lot of up and downs. He seems to be having trouble getting the ball from the perimeter to the post, dribbling the ball. Is that something he's just going to have to work through and kind of get used to with the speed of the game, or
yeah,
how do you remedy that?
Trendon's off to a really good start. I think he's every time you get a 5-star kid, everybody says, oh, this and this and this. I mean, you look at how he stacks up against the other guys in the country. I mean, he's way outperforming a lot of these other guys that are supposed to be in his class, and so I think he's playing extremely, extremely well. Obviously, we need to clean up some of the stuff at the free throw line. We need to clean up some of the turnovers. But I think a lot of it's just, he's playing in tighter spaces. And he's playing, like I said, with the quick, the adjustment and the speed and that sort of thing. So it takes some time. I mean, we go into that Sheldon was there, but it's as tough of an environment as we've played in. You put a freshman out there at VCU. It's not easy. It's not high school. And so I think he's adjusted well, and there's certainly some other ways we can help him get the ball closer to the basket a little bit easier without him having to dribble it 8 times to get down there, which increases the margin for error. It's part of the reason we started him at the 3 the other night. One, it puts our biggest lineup out there. And I think Charles is so smart. He sees things really well coming off the bench, and it helps him kind of get in the flow of the game. I thought he played better in that role, but there's some mismatches we can take advantage of at the 3 that we maybe can't take advantage of sometimes when he's playing in some of the post spots. But I think he's off to a very, 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 very good start, and he's just going to continue to get better and continue to move forward.
Talking with Jalen and Brad, kind of leading up to Cam's decision, they were recruiting him on him. Jalen's around a lot. Is this class that you're starting to build kind of resembling that one with Javante and all those guys? Are they close, so. Or do you kind of see any of that?
It'd be great if it did. Yeah, I mean, Jalen's got such a good personality, and he committed to us first. He's got great pride about LSU. He's got great pride about Louisiana, representing the state, representing the boot. And he's been how it is, Billy, when you're part of those high-level circuits. He's been to the Under Armour camp. He was at the NBA Top 100 camp. He played on all those guys. It's the same basic 150 players that go to all the same stuff together. So whether it's USA Basketball, the camps, the Top 100, it's the same 100 to 125 guys that go to everything together. So they develop relationships and get to know each other. And Cook he's got a good personality, so people like to be around him. And certainly having Bradley there at Oak Hill doesn't that didn't hurt anything. And he's Bradley's somebody he's aggressive. He's aggressive on the court. He's aggressive how he goes and gets rebounds. And I think that's really his nature. But having those guys, and we got to sign a big class, and we got 3 signed, and we're going to need to sign another 3 or 4 before it's all said and done. And so we got some work ahead of us, and we need to add some big guys. We need to add a wing that can help us replace some of what Marlon brings us. We need to add another ball handler, but we've got some good irons in the fire, and we'll see what we can scrounge out. But all those guys certainly know each other and are very, very close. And I think anytime you get a high level player like Cam and Cook and Brad, other guys want to play with those guys, as you know. So we got to do it. But if you look at our league, man, I mean, Auburn's recruiting well. Nobody's in the country's recruiting better than Kentucky. Tennessee's recruiting as well as anybody in the country right now. Buzz has done a great job at A&M, and anytime Arkansas's got in-state talent, they're going to get almost all of those guys, and they've got 1 or 2 commitments, and they got 3 or 4 other really good players that are from Arkansas that probably going to go to Arkansas, if I were guessing. So, everybody in our leagues recruiting at a high level. So we've got to bear down and make sure we finish the class off right. My assistants have done a great job.
Coach, there was at the game the other night at VCU, there were some guys with some unusual attire near your bench.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that? Do you think that should have been shown on network television? And 2,
I don't.
as you go on the road this year, you're probably going to get a little bit more of that. Have you addressed that issue with your players at all?
I don't know what's suitable for network TV or not. I mean, I know Gary. I know those guys. I've known them for a long time when I was at VCU, both as an assistant. So they always dress up. Their attire was a little different this game. But, I mean, I don't think we're going to face anything with the heat that VCU brought in terms. I mean, their fans are passionate anyway, and then you've got some of the stuff that went on in the spring, and you combine that with their dislike of me leaving and overall dislike of me, I guess. It'd be a safe way to put it. I think you're going to have just an environment like you had, just a cauldron of just like you had on Wednesday night. I don't think we'll see that type environment the rest of the week. But I mean, certainly, look, I'm not. If you pay your money, they pay good money to trust me. They pay good money to sit on those floor seats at VCU. Wish we had some floor seats like that here without those boards, but they pay major money to sit there. I know what those guys are paying a year to sit in those seats, and if you do that, I mean, that's the right of the fans. So I mean, I don't have any issue with that. I got thick skin, and I mean, it is what it is.
Coach, it would be fair to say you have a bullseye on you, though, based on what you guys accomplished last year, and a lot of those players aren't here anymore, but this new team is going to have a bullseye based on what LSU did in the tournament. And the football team's #1 in the nation. LSU's a big name, so a lot of people, would you agree, are going to come after you differently than they did last year and the previous?
Yeah, probably. People, I mean, we probably snuck around on some folks last year. I don't think people just circle LSU on their schedule for basketball. I think certainly, there's other programs in our league that they get that, but maybe. I think if you asked the average SEC fan who won the SEC regular season title last year, they probably wouldn't know. Basketball fan. So I mean, that stuff kind of moves on as time, and so it's what have you done for me lately, and who's good. I think you develop a target more as you go through the season and you pile up wins, and I think at the end of the year we had a target on our back. We were winning, and we were a threat to win the SEC, and so it's our job to kind of regain the target. You got to embrace that. If you got it, you got to embrace it. You can run from it or run to it. You got to run to it, and we've got to get to that point where we have that. But our football team is doing well.